All right, good evening, and welcome to Traveling on Everyday Spin live stream. Um, Wanted to go ahead and get some housekeeping out of the way. We do this every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do it live and recorded. I will next week. We'll have to change the day I'll be doing it on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be traveling on Thursday and don't want to risk internet issues. So we'll be doing it Wednesday at 7 p.m. next week. And then as far as I get the recorded live stream out probably about a couple hours afterwards once I get chapters put in, so that whether if you've been on the live stream and come back, you'll be able to click on chapters to make it easier to maneuver. And if you are watching the recorded, you should be able to click on chapters and to be able to see all the pieces that you'd like. Just want to thank everyone for viewing the live stream and liking and subscribing to the channel. And if you get any value from this live stream or any of our videos, please like and subscribe. It really means the world to me, and I appreciate it. But I want to be good about your time, and so let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot to go through. So we have a pretty full agenda. We've got 11 different items to cover that hopefully will bring some good information to you. And so let's get started. We'll get started with some credit card offers that we have going on for topic one. And as far as the credit card offers, not anything new, but just some reminders of some very big and some historic credit card offers that are going on currently. So right now, I thought the Southwest Companion Pass was going to end, and there have been some sites that actually were talking about that you could only access it through a referral link. But I was on Chase's website earlier today, and it still is showing the Companion Pass as a offer. So if you have had any interest in the Companion Pass for Southwest, I would strongly encourage you to at least look at it. You've got 3 cards to look at. The Plus, which is at $69, which I would say is for a beginner or infrequent type of person using Southwest. The Premier for if you normally will be using it, and then Priority for at $149. Basically $4,000 worth of spend in 3 months gets you 30,000 points in the Companion Pass through February 28th of 25. This could come down at any time. As you probably already know, this Companion Pass offer and through Southwest is very different than anything else. It is good for as many times as you want to go on Southwest with the Companion, and there's not another program like that, as well as you can change your partner, I believe 2 or 3 times during the year. Just you need to contact Southwest to let them know. So keep that one in mind. Second, American Express, we've got the Delta credit cards that are slated to end March 27th. If you go to my March 1st live stream, did a very detailed look at the credit cards that are involved and should give you all the information you need to know. I'll make sure to put a link for that live stream as soon as this live stream is over. The Marriott credit cards have the May 1st deadline for American Express. March 7th live stream that we did last week had a very detailed breakdown of the Marriott Bonvoy program as well as the cards for both Chase and American Express. So definitely take a look back at that. Even if you are a seasoned veteran of the Marriott Bonvoy program, I think you'll find some things in there that'll be beneficial, whether it's about the differences between the certificates and the points or the different multipliers and different other benefits that each of those credit cards have. And then Chase, we have the IHG credit cards, personal credit cards ending soon. I talked about them on the March 1st live stream. So once again, you could be able to take a look at that and get more details on those credit cards. And then, as I mentioned, the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless and Bountiful cards through Chase. Talked about that on the March 7th live stream. The United credit cards are ending soon, so we know that that could end at any time. I talked about those credit cards that are available also on the March 1st live stream. So I'll make sure to put all of those down for you to be able to take a look at, and should be able to get you everything you need to get you ready. So let's look at topic 2. And right now we found out about the second quarter categories for the Chase Freedom Flex and the Discover It card. Couple of interesting things, especially on Chase. So the second quarter categories are for Amazon, Whole Foods, hotels, and restaurants. And a couple of things to keep in mind is that you have to activate it. So you need to go into your Chase account under your Freedom Flex and activate that before it will count any of your cards. So it'd be best to go ahead and get that out of the way before April 1st starts, so that you don't forget and don't lose any points on it. $1,500 maximum dollar spend is allowed, and that is for the cumulative of all of those 3 categories. You can't exceed $1,500. So keep that in mind. And of course, the quarter begins April 1st through June 30th. The very interesting thing is that it looks like we're going to be able to stack a couple of those categories, the hotels and the restaurants. As far as the travel for the hotels, if you use the Chase portal, you will normally get 5%, 5 points or 5% on your spend through there. And then the restaurants are normally 3x or 3%. Well, what we'll be able to do in this second quarter is restaurants will become 7%. And if you do hotels through the portal, it's 9%. If you didn't use the portal, then you would have the 5% through this through this upcoming quarter. Now, you may end up saying, well, how does 5 and 3 for the dining equal 8, but it's actually 7, and 5 is 10, but why is hotels 9? It's a thing that bothers everybody, and I put down just a little example as a reminder. When it comes for the restaurant example, you only get 1 base point from basically the original category. So with dining is 3%, it's 1 base point plus 2 bonus points equals 3. And then when you have the 5 points that would be from a restaurant, it's actually only 4, because there's a base point in the restaurants. So it only becomes 4. So 4 points plus the original 3% is what gets us to 7. So it just is what it is. There's not much we can do about it. So we're getting 7% on restaurants for the for the quarter, and 9% for hotels. Very good deals, especially the restaurants. And of course, that is dine-in, takeout for classification for those. So definitely make sure you get the full use of it. It's a great number that really can't be touched by any other card, especially for this quarter. So keep that in mind. And if there's any questions or anything, definitely put something in the comments and let me know. And then for the Discover It card, it'll be the same quarter of April 1st through June 30th. And so we have gas stations and EV charging, home improvement stores, and public transit. The main thing to kind of keep in mind with the providers on the gas and the charging stations, supermarkets, super centers, wholesale, and even some parking garages as far as the EV may not qualify. So keep that in mind. That's a disclaimer that they definitely put into the language for Discover It. And then, but the rest of it, the public transit is public transit, not taxis, not ride share is included. And then as far as the home improvement, as long as it is a home improvement store, those will normally be, those will be qualified under that section. Once again, you have to activate those, so make sure to do that earlier the better. $1,500 combined cap, just like the Freedom Flex, and then the quarter, of course, is the same, April 1st through June 30th. And so now we get to topic 3, which is the small luxury hotels leaving Hyatt. And as a person that really likes Hyatt, this is definitely unfortunate, but we knew it was coming. Hilton announced that they were going to have an upcoming relationship with the small luxury hotels. So we knew that they weren't going to have it with both Hyatt and Hilton. It was just going to be a matter of when that would actually occur. And so we did find that out, that it's going to be May 15th is the final day that it falls under the Hyatt program. And if you've either not been with Hyatt or have never heard about the small luxury hotels, it is a little over 500 hotels in 90 different countries that are very small boutique hotels that are not part of any chain hotel. So they have great locations, and there was a couple of places that I was hoping I was going to be able to go to, but that, of course, it will not come to pass for me. And so if you have one that's booked already through May 15th, you will still get the full value of the points of the nights for the credit and towards your milestone rewards. But if it is after May 15th, then you'll still be able to have the reservation, but you will not get any of the credit that you were getting through May 15th. So definitely keep that in mind. You still have the opportunity to book if you've got time and you have a hotel in mind, you can still book it and stay through May 15th, and you can still do that on Hyatt's website, but not after May 15th. So if that's something of interest, take a look at it. What is the impact? Well, this has not been a good year necessarily, at least let's say the last 6 months for Hyatt. You're obviously losing the small luxury hotels. That obviously does not help. And then if you couple that with MGM leaving its relationship with Hyatt and now dealing with Marriott, that has essentially stripped, no pun intended, stripped Hyatt of really any footing there, especially in Las Vegas. Not to mention, obviously, the other MGM locations around the country. Right now, there's only the Rio, I believe, that they have a relationship with, and that is in the middle of getting remodeled. Much needed. If you've ever been to the Rio there in Las Vegas anytime in the last probably 5 to 10 years, it's in need of some serious help. And I believe Hyatt is putting in something around $350 million for that hotel. So hopefully can bring back some of its luster, but it's just another hit for people that like Hyatt and utilize the program. So what now? Well, right now we're basically going to be looking at the situation where Hyatt purchased the Mr. and Mrs. Smith program, and I call it a program because it's not like small luxury and hotels where you basically ended up having direct hotels that small luxury hotel owned. In these Mr. and Mrs. Smith program, it is essentially just a booking site, and it is many independent ones that get on their platform that are able to be used. And so for that one, the theory is that, at least what we hear, is about 80% of all of the hotels that try to get on the Mr. and Mrs. Smith platform are denied. So considered to be really exclusive. They actually have hotels that are as high as $20,000 a night. Now, obviously, because of the beauty of Hyatt of not doing dynamic points and where it fluctuates all the time, we're not obviously going to see anything that's going to happen with hotels of that kind of caliber. But they have a lot of hotels that even can get down into the $3,000 to the $1,000 level. That I think that we will see some points put together. There is some thought that maybe around April 1st, we may see something crack with the Mr. and Mrs. Smith program, because we had the gift cards that were going on with that program, and that part will be ending on April 1st. So I think that is something that we could look at. And so once again, keep those things in mind. We do see we have a question. What are your thoughts on the Hyatt cards? Good question. Appreciate you asking. And I get that up there. Yeah. So what I would say is I've got the personal Hyatt credit card, and it's one of those things where when you're dealing with hotel credit cards and you start getting to the $95 amount, you're normally dealing with keeper cards because on most of those you're going to get a free night. And so for Hyatt, you get a category 1 to 4 hotel night that normally will easily exceed the $95 fee you put in. So it's a card that I don't normally use, but I know that I've got my certificate from 1 to 4. And I also touched on it in a video, I think one of the live streams, that I had stayed at the Chicago Thompson Hotel as a category 4 that would normally be about $280 a night. And that was my $95 card. So excellent card on the personal side, very good multiplier for when you're at the Hyatt Hotel. I don't use it for anything else though, and that's probably the normal situation for most hotel and airline cards. I've looked at the business card. The business card, because I don't get that free night and because of the fact of the elevated cost for it, I've not found that, excuse me, I haven't found that it's been something that I've been interested in trying. I think that the only reason I think you go for that is either probably one of two things. One is if you're trying to focus on business credit cards, maybe you're concerned about Chase 524 or Capital One 624, and you just want to get that card to be able to get some of the tier nights that come with having that card. A second reason would be is that as far as if you're going to spend a lot on it, whether it's for Hyatt or maybe it's going to be taxes, then there's some benefit as far as kind of spending your way trying to get to the globalist status. Outside of those two things, there's really not been a great bonus that's been there to really entice me. And so definitely a fan of the personal card, not so much of the business card, but I really appreciate you asking the question. So let's move on and definitely keep any questions or comments coming in. More than happy to answer anything. So topic 4 is a mixed bag, unfortunately, of American Express changes. And American Express seems to be constantly changing, whether it is the family language that I've talked about before, which is completely changing how any of us are going to get their credit cards if we want to be able to use any of the bonuses and intro bonuses that we want to get on those cards. So what we're seeing now is a plus and a minus. So the plus is point.me. It is a travel tool. It's one I actually had paid for a period of time. And now the program is if you have a credit card or charge card with American Express where it makes you a membership rewards customer. So as long as it's a points gathering card, not any of the cash credit cards will work. But if you have one of those, you can be able to go into point.me/Amex, put in your card information, and it will provide you a membership at no cost. And it's normally $129 a year for it. The pluses of it is that it does a pretty good job, especially if you're just kind of getting started with points and miles. And if you want to get a little help, and especially if you're not going to have to pay for it, anything that's free is obviously going to be an excellent chance to be able to maximize its benefits. So it's going to be similarly set up to like how Bilt is. So point.me has a relationship with Bilt, and what they do is they will let you be able to do things just with the transfer partners of that credit card. So they're going to do the same thing with American Express, but the beauty of it is American Express, I believe, essentially has the largest number of airlines of any of the transfer credit cards companies of Chase, Amex, Citi, and Capital One. So just getting it on American Express is going to help with all of the things you want to do. So I would definitely encourage, if you've got a Amex credit card that collects points, go ahead and get yourself on it. I think you're going to find that it's going to be very beneficial to you, and it helps out a bit. But so that is available right now. You can be able to go onto it. They have had a few days where they've been really having some bugs and trying to fix it, but I think they've gotten it straightened out over the last 24, 36 hours. I haven't seen anything negative, and I haven't been on it under the new thing, because unfortunately for me, it's non-refundable, so I cannot get my money back on that. But it is a good use for anybody that's looking at points and miles, just to have another tool, and especially a free tool. The downside, of course, that we now have found out with American Express, if you have the Platinum credit card, is the digital credit. That portion is a $240 a credit at $20 a month, and it has normally had Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Peacock, Wall Street Journal, and the New York Times. It also has Sirius, but we've now found out that Sirius is no longer going to be an eligible program as of May 8th. Not good at all. It's exactly how I've used my $240 allotment for the Platinum. That has helped me to try to cover that $695 annual fee, to be able to make it worth it. So it is a tough blow, especially when the other options are not really enticing to me. I probably will end up looking at getting probably Disney Plus, I guess. So yes, I will get it, and I'll use the $20, but it's not going to have the same strength and power for me when I'm spending that, when I'm incurring that cost and using that credit. So Point.me, excellent for anyone that has credit cards with point, that deals with membership reward points. Bad from the Platinum. I have not heard or seen anything that has talked about anything good replacing it. And keep in mind, if you've had this card or even have looked at it, Audible was the one that left about a month or so ago, which was like $16 a month normally. And so the $20 fully covered Audible. So especially if you were a person in the car a lot, this has just not been a good period for that $240 digital credit. So, but definitely let me know your thoughts and comments on it. It's a mixed bag, and that's what American Express has been doing lately. Okay, so another topic that you probably have heard about since at least probably last night or this morning is that Bilt is losing American Airlines as a transfer partner. So let's kind of take a look at this, because it's a gut shot in regards to the Bilt card, but it's not a lethal blow by any means for the card. But this originally was from Viewed from a Wing, that talked about Bilt's partnership ending in June. We don't know what date yet in June, though. And then based on the June date, what it looks like is that this really kind of started in June. I think it was near the end of June of 2021. So it looks like they had a 3-year contract, and they're just not going to get together to renew it. So is it a big deal? Well, it's yes and no. It's a big deal in that way because American Airlines is it was the only deal that Bilt that American Airlines had with any credit issuer. And so keep this in mind. American Airlines co-brands their cards with Barclays, and they do it with Citi. And obviously Citi has thank you points. And they have not had long-term agreements with either of them. So Bilt coming out of nowhere getting it was a real big shock. and really gave a good place to be able to earn points towards American Airline points just with your normal spend rather than a co-branded credit card. So that's been a good thing with that. Now, I'm going to look at what alternative we have to look at it, and I'll give you some thoughts that I have in regards to British Airways. But let me take a move to another part real quick. So what now? Well, as I said, it's kind of it's a tough blow for people that were really interested in American Airlines, but Bilt has done so many things related to points and miles that has made them stellar. And they are much more now than just a credit card for renters because they don't have to pay the processing fee. We've seen over the last 2 to 3 months, at least, where we've seen transfers based upon whatever tier you're at with Bilt, getting up to 75, 50, 75, 100% on your transfers. Keep in mind that when we're talking about normal transfer partners and there's bonuses with Chase or American Express or Citi or Capital One, we're really only looking at maybe 20%, maybe 30% at the most as far as the transfer bonus. And they are blowing it out of the water. Now it's one designated airline that comes up. I think one of the times it was 2. So it's definitely something that even if you don't rent, you have to look at it because there's nothing really like it. The second part that you need to keep in mind is that we still got 2.5 months to be able to do anything. So if you've got an account with American Airlines and you've really been working towards being able to transfer points to American, you've got plenty of time. But if it's not been something that you've really been very concerned about, don't worry about it. It's okay. I mean, there's with these different bonuses that they have going on, you should look at those. But if you're really tied in and you're dealing with Bilt because of the American Airlines, you've got time to deal with it. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I think that with the end of that 3-year deal, we may finally see something happen with American Airlines going back to a relationship with Citi. Now, back, I think it was in 2021, as I've noted here, there was like a 3 or 6 month deal that American Airlines was a transfer partner. And myself included, because I have a Citi Premier card, was really looking forward to being able to have that relationship and use my gas points and such, because American Airlines points are quite valuable. And it ended, and there was nothing else to be said. And so we might see them go towards their own co-branded card with Citi. So that is what I'm hoping for. I see that we've got a couple of additional questions. And from Janice, and I'm hopefully pronouncing it correctly, can I go over ways to utilize the $200 American Express Platinum Airline credit? Sure. So I've used it in a couple of ways. So the normal way that you're supposed to be able to use it for is baggage. If you can use it for lounges. So let's say that I name my transfer airline to be American Airlines. And while I may not be flying American, I may want to get a day pass to be able to go to the American Airlines lounge. Now, not the flagship, not the top of the line lounge, but as long as I've got American Airlines for that and I charge for that day pass at American's lounge, that will go towards your airline credit. And I used that when I was visiting my son, and we were traveling back and used that. So it was a nice touch for that. Now, if you look at, I want to say if it's not Frequent Flyer, I'll have to look that up. I think it's Frequent Flyer. There's been kind of a blog kind of site for Frequent Flyer, and if I'm incorrect, I will look it up, where you get a lot of people that will chime in and they will say, well, this triggered it for me. 2 places that I've been able to use it at is, one, if you make Southwest your airline of choice, then there have been times, and once again, your mileage may vary on what I'm saying, um, where you can use it and pay, let's say, less than the $100 or for an airline, where maybe you split it between a gift card and your American Express Platinum, and it has triggered in the past. Once again, these loopholes go in and out all the time. So that would be something for Southwest. United has had the United Bank. Now that thing has kind of gone off and on at different times. So I have used it. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up making United my designated airline, and then I had an airline that I used to use the card to buy a ticket, and then I ended up canceling the ticket and had that credit go towards my United Bank, and I got the credit for what I spent. So it's something where if when I talk about what my value is from the airline credit, I only feel like I get $100 for it, because I don't want to I'm not willing to kind of risk playing the game where something may go through or it may not, and maybe I caught it at the wrong time. So while I'm mentioning a couple of these things that I've seen happen in the past, I would really do the best you can to just identify the airline that you think is going to be able to give you a benefit, and you can change it more than once. I've changed it twice in a year, and I think you're easily allowed to do that. So keep that in mind. So, and there's some upgrades that may work as well. But for me, I've kind of kept it very simple to where I'm looking at a lounge. I try to plan out where I'm going, and is there a lounge for me to use? Is there going to be some additional baggage fees that I'm going to have coming up? And I've used it. It's not it's not one that I figure I'll use all the time or completely. But I will, after the live stream, I will look in to confirm this one website where a lot of people will talk about what they think may work and what it may not work. But I just warn you, be careful about, there's no guarantees in anything. So I hope that helps in regards to it. It's just not something that I've ever viewed that I'm going to get the full value of. So I'm okay getting $60, $100. And if you are traveling with somebody, you could get the lounge day passes for both of you. They don't care in regards to it. It doesn't have to be assigned to your name. So hopefully that helps a little bit. And so Mr. Cool 354, you actually transferred from Bilt to American Airlines. It was great not having to jump through hoops to top off miles to make a redemption. Sad to see American Airlines, but maybe Wells Fargo picked them back up. Yeah, it was something that I was starting to look forward to, of being able to do that. I just recently got the card, and it was one of the reasons that I did get it. Now, of course, it doesn't, with it having no annual fee, that's why it's not going to hurt that much. But it's a kick in the tail. And I'll actually touch on some of the hoops that you may have to go through to try to get some mileage related to American Airlines. So as I put on here, that an alternative is British Airways. Now, when I say that it's an alternative, it is not an alternative all encompassing by any means. It's just certain sweet spots that you would be able to do. So the first plus of British Airways uses what they call Avios. That's their points that they have. The beauty with British Airways is that British Airways is a partner with American Express, Capital One, and Chase. They all transfer to British Airways, so you can get a lot of points from a lot of different spaces. So if you're diversified on your points and miles, that you can get some good mileage out of that from all of those different credit cards. As far as sweet spots, there's really two that I'll point out. One is short haul flights. So what basically ends up happening is they've got it broken out into zones. So if you're traveling up to 650 miles, then you're probably going to end up paying for economy about 8,250 points, premium economy 9,000 points, business 16,500, and first class is 24,000 points. And then if you're in zone 2, which as far as distance, which is 651 miles to 1,150 miles, then you're looking at 11,000 points for economy, 12,500 points for premium economy, 20,500 for business, and then normally about 36,000 or 38,000 points for first class. Now, depending, as you can imagine, when we're talking about sweet spots, we're basically still having to go on to British Airways. We're going to look at partner airlines, and we'll see what's there. When you're looking at economy and maybe premium economy, I normally do find that a pretty good amount. And those points through British Airways, Avios, is lower than American Airlines for their short haul. So that's one sweet spot to kind of look at. The other part that that is kind of a niche type of sweet spot is going to Hawaii from LAX or Dallas Fort Worth, DFW, or Phoenix. Those have fair prices from British Airways, and I see those not often, but a good amount of times. But normally for the economy, maybe premium economy, finding business and first class is difficult, at least for me. And I think that's the way in most cases. There's only so much that they want to put out for that, and there's so many different airlines that have different programs of when they will release seats to their partner airlines. But if we're going to lose American Airlines, at least temporarily, take a look at British Airways and see if there may be some spots that to fly on American for a decent price that may be of help to you. So take a look at those. So that's kind of my thoughts on Bilt losing American Airlines. And I think that Wells Fargo may be a possibility. I would have felt better about that if this didn't happen, because if they were already had a relationship with Wells Fargo through Bilt, then maybe we would have seen it on the Autograph Journey credit card. And I think that's what a lot of people were looking at for the Autograph Journey, was that we're going to see those same great transfer partners that we see on Bilt with Hyatt and American Airlines, and we didn't see that. Now with Bilt not having it, it's going to probably be less likely that we're going to see that on the Journey. And I talked about that in my previous live stream of just kind of giving a thought on it. It's a slow start for that card. I think there's 6 airlines, but 3 of them all use the same thing. British Airways uses Avios, Iberia uses Avios, and then Aer Lingus uses Avios. So yes, there's 3 of them, but they're really all the same value. It's the same Avios point. So we'll have to take a look at that. And I must say I'm a little selfish in hoping that they get to Citi so that I can use that Citi Premier card to earn some points. But Wells Fargo may be an option. We'll have to keep an eye on things. So let's go ahead and move on to the next item that we've got. Alaska Mileage Plan. So back in, I think it was November of last year, Alaska Airlines talked about that they were going to make changes to their plan. And we've now started seeing that roll out this month. And I think they're supposed to be finished this month. And the main thing that they were changing was they were kind of going from where they had different charts for all of their partners to now going with a distance-based award chart. And I would say it's similar to Aeroplan if you've looked at any of their charts where it is distance-based for them. And that's been something that's worked well for Aeroplan to create sweet spots. And we are seeing that with the Alaska Mileage Plan. So like, as I mentioned, the award chart has started coming out. They should be finished by the end of the month. Now, what are the noteworthy items that I've seen on that? Well, the stopovers, which have been free with Alaska Airlines, which has been a really nice touch, still will be free with these changes. Um, Iceland Air, which I've heard of, never been on it, they are going to change their pricing on their what they call business class and reduce it to premium economy, because from what I've read and looked at, it's really not it doesn't really qualify as business, even though they call it business. So we're going to save money if you're going to be on Iceland Air at any time, and we're going from 55,000 points on a lot of common flights down to 30 to 35,000. So that is a significant drop for Iceland Air. They are talking about some quarterly partner award sales. Sounds real good. We'll need to see it in action, though. But that, if they did that, that would make it would make a big deal. It would be a big deal if they do that. Then there was a sweet spots that was for Alaska Airlines, and it related to Qantas going from the West Coast, like LA, to Sydney in business or first class. And as I note on there, first class was 70,000. Now it is all the way up to 130,000 points. Business, 50,000, all the way up to 85,000 points. Same thing with Cathay Pacific, LA to Hong Kong. First class, 70 to 130,000 points. Business from 50 to 85. And that becomes the downside when you do distance, that clearly, as you go further out, it's not going to be a sweet spot. Now, one thing that should be said is, while these two categories for Qantas and Cathay Pacific were viewed as sweet spots, they were extremely hard to find and to be able to get to. So it is, while you do lose it, it was a sweet spot for very few people that were able to find it. So a couple of thoughts on who wins. Well, if it's distance-based, it's the short hauls, especially if you're doing economy. So similar to what we talked about with British Airways, up to 700 miles, only 4,500 miles / points. In economy, 701 miles to 1,400 miles in distance, 7,500 miles / points. So that's a really good sweet spot for short hauls, especially within the United States. But that also works for within Europe as well. I didn't note that up there, but these short hauls, doesn't matter if it's in the United States or in Europe. It's the same very good type of value that you can be able to look at. Then the other part is because of the distance. If you're on the northeast coast going to Europe in business class, you were looking at anywhere from 57,500 miles to 75,000 miles. And now we're seeing them for 45 to 55,000 points. So it's not the best thing known to man going to Europe, but it makes it very competitive to look at the Alaska Airlines Mileage Plan, just like you might look at KLM or Air France, where they do different deals going from especially the United States to Europe. But so those are the pluses. The losers, you can kind of look at those sweet spots that we were looking at that used to exist coming out of LA. It's California. While the East Coast has really kind of gets ahead with their score, with the value, the Midwest is kind of meh. It's about the same. That's the same as far as the Pacific Northwest, Washington and such, is about the same. But California, as you start going into that west, southwest portion, further distances, higher costs. Connecting flights is also an issue, because when you're looking at the distance, they are calculating that connecting flight, they're adding that into your mileage. So it does create an issue for it. It's not as bad as what I believe British Airways is, where they are actually charging fees with those connecting flights at times that makes it less desirable. So it's not great. It is a loss, but it's not as bad as that. So I have not had a whole big chance to fly utilizing the mileage plan. I did get the business Alaska mileage plan mileage card. And so I've got, they give you a companion pass to be able to use that I still need to use. But I don't really accumulate a lot of points on the card. And that's a lot of situations with hotel and airline cards. You're not really using it to accumulate points that way unless you're going to fly. So, and of course, well, I won't say of course, but from where I live, there is only one Alaska airline flight that goes out, and it only goes to Seattle. So if I want to take Alaska Airlines to go any place, especially even this companion pass, one of the beautiful things of it is that you, for that companion pass, and it's a one-time thing compared to Southwest, which is for an entire period of time, is that you can connect into a lot of different places, have an open jaw, and you don't have to come back from where you started. So you could string a whole lineage of trips together as long as you want for that companion pass. But for me, that's what I'm going to have to be able to try to do to get any mileage out of it, because I can't just go straight to the Caribbean or go straight to someplace else. I have to take the road up to Seattle. So, but if there's any questions about the mileage plan, let me know. It's something that we're just going to have to kind of take a little bit of a look at as these charts come out. But we already know that it's distance-based, so short hauls will always be great, no matter what area of the world you're in. The short haul is the short haul is the short haul. So something to keep in mind. So let's take a look. Etihad. Now, this kind of was one that I ended up seeing while I was looking at Frequent Miler, which is a very good blog site to look at. And I hadn't really seen it from anybody else as far as this Etihad transfer bonus. So the interesting thing about the Etihad transfer bonus is this is not coming from the credit card issuer. Like, let's say Capital One has Etihad as a transfer partner. This is not their transfer bonus. This is actually Etihad, the entity, transfer bonus. And so let's look at what's going on. So what is going on is we're getting you're looking at transfer bonuses between 20 and 40% related to Etihad. And the way that it is set up, Capital One is the only US-based transfer partner for this. And so what they're doing is, if you transfer 1 to 10,000 miles from Capital One to Etihad, you'll get a 20% bonus. If it's 10,001 miles to 50,000 miles, it goes to 30%. And then lastly, if it's 50,001 miles and up, you get 40%. The numbers sound very good, but the devil's in the details. The promotion period is from March 1st through March 31st. Your bonus, if you do this, the bonus is not going to come out until approximately April 15th, and I've seen places talk about April 22nd. But you're not going to get those bonus points at the time that you transfer the points. So keep that in mind. What's the worst part of it is the cancellation policy that you have dealing with Etihad. So if you cancel your flight at 21 days or longer, you're going to lose 25% of your points. If it is between 7 and 20 days, you will lose 40% of your points. And if it's 7 days, you will lose 75% of your points. That is an astonishing cancellation number. As you may have experienced it as far as using your points and miles, it's one of the great things. I can fly Delta and know that my points are coming back to me. So if you even consider this program for this month, please keep in mind that cancellation policy. It is brutal. If you're going to do it, you better know that you're going to go ahead and reserve that flight. And keep in mind, even if you got sick or if you had family or whatever, just don't lose the points. So I bring it up just so that you're aware of it. But I would caution you of doing it. Once the live stream is over and I set up the recording part, I'll include a link, because the link, you're not going to transfer through Capital One. You have to go to Etihad's website and they have a link where you go to that and transfer your points. So I will include it, but please, please keep that cancellation policy in mind. So Hilton, we've got some intro bonuses related to Hilton right now. They're not as great as what we are seeing with Marriott. 5 free night certificates and 185,000 points, but it is still something worth noting. So this is on the American Express cards, and they go through April 17th of 2024. And so we've got 3 cards that this is involving. It's not going to involve the business card, just the 3 personal cards: the Hilton Honors Program, Hilton Surpass, and the Hilton Aspire. So Hilton Honors is the no annual fee card. With a $2,000 worth of spend in the first 6 months, you'll get 100,000 Hilton points. I do put the multipliers there of 7x for Hilton spend, 5x for dining, groceries, and gas in the U.S., 3x on everything, and you get Silver Elite status. Couple of things to keep in mind with this card, the pluses and minuses. The Silver Elite status doesn't necessarily do much for you, so I wouldn't give any value to that. And as I've said on these other cards, spending money on that card outside of using it for your hotel that it's tied to is normally not going to work out well. Now, obviously, when you've got to do that $2,000 worth of spend, then that's completely understandable of groceries, dining, or the 3x on everything else. But remember, these multipliers, just as a number, is not, you have to understand the point value. I think the points guy these days is giving Hilton like half a cent, maybe a little bit more per point. So don't necessarily compare and look at, and I did this when I was new to points and miles, where I would look at, oh, wow, 5x on groceries. Well, that's better than American Express. Well, it's not, because of the fact that it's only worth half a cent a point. So that's why all multipliers are not created equal, and you're normally not going to use a hotel credit card to do other things in most cases. So that's the Hilton Honors card. The Hilton Surpass is a $150 annual fee with 155,000 points with $3,000 worth of spend in the first 6 months. And this is a common thing for personal credit cards through American Express, is that they normally give you 6 months on the spend, where you'll see on Chase, they only give you 3 months. So it makes it a lot easier to get to that spending threshold that you need to do truly on everyday spend because of that 6-month period. So on this one, you've got 12x on Hilton hotels, 6x on dining, groceries, and gas, 4x on online within the United States. That's a new one. 3x on everything else, Gold Elite status, and the $200 Hilton credit is a new thing as well. At the same time with the U.S. online. And this is a typical thing of American Express. They raise a fee on your annual fee, and they try to get you credits that are supposed to overcome that cost. And so that's their version of this with the $200 Hilton credit. The National Car Rental Emerald Club executive status, I believe, is also new. And then you get a free night reward if you have $15,000 worth of spend. Here's a few of my thoughts related to the Surpass card. If you're a person that is going to stay at a Hilton hotel, I'd say 2 or 3 times a year, even if it's for a night or two, even if it's for a staycation or local travel or such, and you're going to be able to use that Hilton credit, then that can cover the cost of your annual fee, which makes this work. So that is something to kind of keep in mind in regards to it. So the $200, in, once again, typical American Express fashion, is broken out into $50 credits each quarter. Now that spend is supposed to be on when you are reserving a hotel room with the credit card. You can utilize that $50 credit for that. Or if you're going to incur costs while you're staying at the hotel, maybe there's a restaurant on site, depending on it, or if there's amenities and such, and you charge it to the room, that $50 is supposed to go towards that. There have been some talk of being able to trigger it in different other ways. I will leave that to you if you search for it or need to find it, but I would just leave it at that. And I think that as long as you're going to be at the hotel, you can probably get that $200 worth of value. But once again, $50 a quarter. If you don't have, as far as the rental car, if you don't have any, if you do take rental cars even a couple times a year, and you don't have I'll call it a premium credit card, that national car rental is a nice touch. Once again, not the reason to get the credit card, but it is a nice touch. That program is on the American Express Platinum, and I've used it. It basically allows you to go to, for a major airport, let's say, you'll be able to go right onto the lot, and you'll be able to, they designate an area where the keys are in a number of other cars. And I believe it's where as long as you get a mid-sized car or higher, then you trigger getting use of the Emerald Club executive status. And so they'll have cars there from, I'll make up a couple of things depending on, because obviously it changes per airport. You might have the choice of a Charger, a Toyota Camry, you might have a small Jeep, you can have a pickup truck. So they have a lot of variety for you to be able to pick up and be able to have your choice of whatever's on the lot. So it's a nice fringe benefit, not the reason to buy it, you get to have the card, but it's a fringe for it. Then you have the Hilton Aspire, which you may have heard of. It is a super overpowered card. $550 annual fee is a lot of money. Don't deny it. You get 175,000 points for $6,000 worth of spend in the first 6 months. 14x on Hilton, 7x on flights. As you see, we're starting to deal with flights, car rental, and dining. 3x on everything else. But here's where the outsized value, if you're going to stay with Hilton. Number one, you get automatic diamond status, and that is the top tier for Hilton. It is the only card I'm aware of, and I could be wrong, where you can get a credit card and have the top tier of that hotel. Not sure of another one that has it. I know that Marriott doesn't have a credit card, that the Marriott Brilliant that American Express has gets you to platinum status, but you still have titanium, I believe, and then ambassador. Hyatt doesn't have a card that gets you that kind of that type of situation, which is globalist. So there's no card that does that. IHG can get you to, I believe, platinum status with their premier card, but it's still not the top. So it's very unique. That diamond status doesn't necessarily do a whole lot for you at the run-of-the-mill hotels for Hilton. But if you start looking at some aspiring some aspirational travel, it can do a lot and bring down some costs. Like if you were going to the Maldives, or you're going to some other different unique countries where it'll include the breakfast that I hear this. I've not been to the Maldives, but you could pay for a breakfast that would be putting you in the $7,500 a day just for breakfast. And diamond status will let you have that and cover that cost. So other little benefits, but it's definitely a unique card for that. Now they have the hotel credit for the $400, but they don't break it out into quarters. They do it semi-annual at $200. That makes it easier to use that $400 to be able to get the full value of it. You have $100 if you're doing Hilton on property credit at the Waldorf Astoria or the Conrad. I think you could, I could end up using that if I was in Las Vegas. Resorts World has a Conrad. The Waldorf Astoria is there. And at least I've not stayed at the Waldorf Astoria before. But that number, to be able to get that, you may or may not be able to do that if you don't plan on staying at one of those two. So when you try to figure out if this card is worth it for you, that's something to keep in mind. Clear Plus credit. The Aspire card is only one of 4 cards that fully pay for Clear. The American Express Platinum, the American Express Business Platinum, the Aspire card, and the Green card, surprisingly. When I look at that value for me, and I'm not someone that flies a whole lot, maybe 2 to 4 times a year. Clear, where they're basically looking at your fingerprints or your eyes, is to be able to move you to the front of the line. You go in a separate line. They walk you up to the security portion there, whether you're on TSA pre-check or you don't have TSA pre-check. You get walked up to the front and you go. You skip people. It works for me. So it's a very good benefit. The $200 flight credit, $50 each quarter. Once again, we kind of talked a little bit about that. It's the same thing on the Aspire for that. And then you get a free night reward on this. You can get additional free nights for 15,000 points. $15,000 spend. And then, of course, the national car rental. The free night reward is a big deal with Hilton. There is no cap on the points. As long as you can find space at a hotel for that certificate, it doesn't matter what it costs. So whether you are going to the Maldives and it's $1,000 a night, if they've got award space, you can use that certificate. You'll see some really, what do I want to say? You will see some people that are really doing some big time aspirational travel, and they will get multiple Hilton Aspire cards because that $550 used to be $450. Now it's $550. They could get 4 of those cards, spend $1,100, $2,200 a year, but they get 4 of those passes of those free nights. They will be able to fully be able to utilize that in get super value out of it. So that's why the Hilton Aspire card is a overpowered credit card. Now, with all of that being said, we still have now what is the American Express family, or I call it family drama language. If it depends on how much you're hunting, if they want you to go in order. They want you to get the Hilton Honors first, then the Hilton Surpass, then the Hilton Aspire. If you get the Hilton Aspire first, you cannot get the bonus intro on a Hilton Surpass or a Hilton Honors card. So something to keep in mind. So if you're just hunting for points, you might want to go the road of Hilton Honors, Hilton Surpass, and Hilton Aspire, especially the Honors, potentially because there's no annual fee and you're getting 100,000 points. But everybody has to weigh that for themselves of if that is something that is important to them to collect the points, then you do need to go in order. If not, pick the card that you want and keep going. So just a few things to keep in mind. These are not historic numbers. They're very strong numbers. So if you are interested in Hilton, any of those cards are worth looking at. So I'll help you to determine if you are interested in those cards and which one may fit for your situation. Topic 9 on business credit cards. I wanted to kind of just touch on some of this. I've had some questions asked to me, and I not even just on the website, but just in life in regards to business credit cards, and get asked, well, why would I want a business credit card? What's the pluses? What's the negatives of having a business credit card? And do I have to have an LLC to get one? All of those type of things. So I want to just kind of take a few moments to kind of make you aware of a couple things. In my case, I've got 3 business cards through American Express. We've got 5 Chase business credit cards. I've got I've got that Alaska Airlines business credit card. I think that's all. Oh, I'm sorry. And then a Costco business credit card through Citi. So do have a few of those, but I just wanted to be able to kind of touch on a couple things just so that to at least make sure that that everybody's educated and to be able to determine, is it something for them? Maybe it's not, but I just want to be able to take a few moments so that there's not a fear about business credit cards. When we talk about what's needed for a business credit card, really I would say the minimum things are you want to have at least a 700 credit score. And then it gets to what are you doing that makes it a business. So if you're an Uber driver, full-time or part-time, if you do Shipt, any of that, where you're getting a 1099 for your taxes, you are self-employed and you are a business. Essentially, you are self-owned. You basically run your own business. When you look at if you don't have that, maybe it's a case where you want to write the next great novel, you want to do a cookbook, you want to start a dog walking business, you want to personal train people. It doesn't matter what idea you have. If it is something that you want to try to make profitable, you are eligible for a business credit card. It is you don't have to have a business in already. You don't have to have an LLC for it. You don't even have to have a business plan to present to somebody to try to assure them that you have a business. None of that is necessary. When I got my first business credit card, it was based on the thought that I wanted to do consulting. I didn't know what was going to happen from it. I just was kind of interested. But the biggest thing I saw was the points that was on some business credit cards, especially the ink credit cards from Chase. And I wanted the points. And going through Chase, it was all I ended up doing was using my own social security number. I gave my best guess of what I was going to try to earn, and that's it. There was nothing else to it, and it was relatively simple to get the credit card. I've had these credit cards for years now, and there's never a conversation of, hey, what's going on with that business? How much are you making? What are you doing? It doesn't come up anymore. So just a few pluses to keep in mind. And I'm saying this because I had done a business credit card video this past Saturday on best business credit cards for small businesses for points and miles. And my one on Saturday is going to be for cashback on businesses. But just to kind of let you all know and what I kind of get out of it. So if you get a business credit card, let's say it is the American Express Blue Business Plus 2% on everything. If you're doing that, anything that you do with that business credit card does not show up on your personal credit card, personal credit score. It is completely separate. So a lot of times when you're getting personal credit cards, and maybe they'll say 12 months, no interest, and a lot of people would like doing that. They can get some things and have full 12 months to pay on it. The problem with a personal credit card, though, is that balance that's sitting there high is going to screw up with your credit utilization, and it can hurt your credit score in the meantime. Even though you're doing nothing wrong, you're within the guidelines of the credit card, but it's still a high balance to be paid at some point. When you're doing business credit cards, it doesn't show up. It doesn't count towards that your personal credit score, and it's not going to hurt your credit utilization. So that's one plus. The second plus is that if you are let's say you're under Chase 524, and most people probably already know, but Chase 524 is essentially where you are, if you've had 5 credit cards, normally personal credit cards, in a 24-month period, in most cases, you are not eligible to get a credit card from Chase. It's just flat out. There's some wiggle room on some of these co-branded cards these days, but that's kind of been the rock solid situation. Well, if you're 424 from Chase, and even if you get a Chase business card from Chase themselves and get the credit card, you don't go up to 524. You stay at 424. So you could turn around and get 5 business cards from Chase and you will still be 424. So it helps a lot in regards to it if you are going to seek multiple credit cards to be able to do that. Once again, not necessarily for everybody for that purpose, but to even knowing that you can get 1 or 2 business credit cards if you choose to, and it not affect your 524 is a very good thing. And Chase and Capital One kind of has a version of 624. So something to keep in mind with that. Plus, there are higher bonuses available. The Ink credit cards are normally at 75,000 points per card. Sometimes they get to 90,000 points. For personal credit cards, especially ones with no annual fee, that is an outstanding way to accumulate points very quick for the card and to be able to keep them because there's no annual fee. The other part of that is in the additional categories. So a lot of times on points and miles credit cards, you're not seeing where you can pay for utilities, your electric, your cable, your internet, your phone. Well, you can get the Ink Business Cash Card and you get 5x on cable, phone, and internet. I use it all the time for my cable, phone, and internet. And that is a multiplier that I cannot get from any place else. So those are kind of the benefits to consider with it. So you might say, well, what are the downsides? Well, the downsides really are only are really the same thing as if you did with personal credit cards, is if you get too many of them and you don't manage them well, especially if they are ones that have annual fees. So that's really the only downside to it. In managing the credit card as far as getting those intro bonuses, because the intro bonus for that higher bonus is normally for a higher spend in a shorter period of time. So as I talk about with anything with credit cards, whether it's personal or business, you have to make sure that you are going in with a plan of what you're trying to accomplish, so that you know that you can be successful at it. But it's just something to have as another potential tool in your toolbox as far as business credit cards. It's nothing to be scared of. It's nothing to feel intimidated by any means. And so when I talk about my thoughts on it as far as American Express, Chase, and Citi, American Express, even for just like for personal credit cards, they're easier to get when it comes to their business credit cards. So if I was starting off and I just wanted to start off real slow with little stress, I would look at a American Express Blue Business Plus credit card. It's a 2% catch-all credit card that you can use up to $50,000. That's its cap for 2%. There's no annual fee. They do have an intro bonus, and that can be a nice catch-all card for membership reward points. Just that simple, and you can get started that way. And if you have an American Express card already through as a personal credit card, all you end up you don't even have a hard pull that happens. So big thing with American Express is once you have a credit card with them or charge card, then at that point, every credit card you get after that is a soft pull. They don't do hard pulls, and that's whether it's personal or business. So no harm to your credit. You can be able to get that, and then something to consider. Then you can look at, if you want to move to Chase for those Ink no annual fee credit cards, if it's something of interest. Citi, the only reason I mention them is if you're interested in American Airlines for a business credit card, or I've got my Costco credit card, and I normally use that for, unless I'm trying to chase a welcome bonus, I will get it from Costco. with that, and for their gas at 4%. So just a little tidbit for that. And if you all have any questions or comments in regards to it, definitely once I get this put up, drop some comments, drop questions. More than happy to answer any of them. And this is not to tell people you got to get a business credit card. You may hear some people say that. I just think that it's a tool that could be helpful for a lot of people, just to kind of fill in some gaps and to maximize their spend in some areas like utilities that I mentioned, and for additional bonuses depending upon where you're at in your journey. Um, so I think that kind of covers everything. So definitely, if you found this live stream helpful, please like and subscribe. I'll have my new video out on Saturday morning, and next week's live stream will be Wednesday night Eastern Standard Time at 7 p.m. And I want to thank for everybody that participated. Really appreciate that, and everybody take care.